Hey guys, it's Brian here with The Divide every Monday at 3 p.m. where facts, evidence, data, and statistics matter, because an opinion without some evidence to back it up is, well, you know what it is. It's a progressive opinion. Anyways, we are underwritten by CJM Full Service Remodeling. Call Chad 585-414-8241. Sorry about that. 585-414-8241. Chad, and he can get it done. Trust me. All right. So speaking of opinions, I state and offer my opinion on the show for an hour, correct? I mean, it is my opinion. I try to reflect the facts that I read and the evidence I read. Sometimes does my opinion, that I started with kind of overshadow some blatant evidence I read? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But for the most part, I usually talk about things on here in order to not look like I don't know what I'm talking about. Things that have evidence to back it up, data to prove it, facts related to it, and I never just read a social media headline, Obama, no birth certificate, and I just run out. Obama has no birth certificate. I mean, I don't do anything like that. I try to, if I see a subject that interests me, or an issue, or a policy, or a bill, or whatever, I really get into it. I want to know what the reasoning is for it from the party that is for it, and then what's the reasoning for them being against it, the other party. I mean, trust me, there's been plenty, of bills that I've said, why the heck are the Republicans against this or for it? It makes no sense. I mean, I'm not one of those people who are dead set, a dead red, just like you. No matter what happens, I'm going to go to bat for, the conservatives or the Republicans. No, not at all. Do I believe their value system is overwhelmingly better for our country? Yes, I do. But there's some things I don't agree with as well. But again, I'm allowed to have an opinion, and so are you. It's, my own research that I do on each issue. I try to not get it from CNN or Fox News. I try to go to some reputable sources, if there's any left. No, there is some left. And I get the facts. Get the facts of the actual facts of this issue that we're talking about, whatever it may be. Instead of the, opinions from the right and the opinions from the left on Fox and CNN. Because for the most part, although I did hear CNN was kind of making a move to more news, neither of those stations, after 8 o'clock at night, actually after 7 o'clock at night, is going to give you any news. They're going to give you opinions, because it's all opinion-based shows. And, I mean, they say that, so it's not, that's fine. It's their opinions. But if you want some news after 7 o'clock at night, you can't, on one of those topics, yeah, they'll be talking about them, but you're not going to get any real facts, at least none that are going to be against the side they're speaking for. So, like I said, there's sometimes, once I gather all this, I'll alter my opinion, or, alter it either a lot or just a little bit. Okay, I was wrong here. Cool. And there's sometimes I dig my heels in and I'm just like, no, this is, yeah, I was right. This is exactly what it is. I knew it. I'm a genius. It's, no matter how much evidence I use to back up my opinion on an issue, it's still my opinion. And that's the point I'm making. It's, a fact is Joe Biden is our president of the United States. He's our president. That's a fact. It's a fact. You can't debate a fact. Now, if I say everything he's touched has really been a debacle since he started, that's my opinion. That can be debated, and it can be debated with facts. The person debating me can go find a bunch of stuff, say, hey, look at this. but this stuff worked out really well. Here, here, here. And I can say, well, here's this, here's this, this. I'll be like, did you drive here today? You know, but the point is, it's my opinion. And the people debating me don't have to change their opinion. I don't have to change mine. When we put something on social media that's an opinion, it's kind of crazy and kind of scary that it can get tagged up or taken down or flagged or whatever you want to call it as misinformation when it's an opinion. I mean, it makes no sense. If I said, you know, Donald Trump is our president right now, he won, and he's actually our president, and he, you know, gives orders from his basement. Now that, they can say, all right, this guy's a little nuts, I'm going to take it down. Because that's not true. It's simply not true. It is misinformation. But if I say, well, the left media, you know, and all this nonsense, you know, all the state governments or state courts that ruled right before the election and all that stuff, you know, basically stacked the deck for Biden and Trump should have won. Now that's an opinion. And if I say that, there's no reason for that to be taken down. Now, if I say, you know, January 6th was a good thing, I wish they would have got in there. And now that can be considered, you know, dangerous or hate speech or whatever. Yes, and that should be tagged, flagged, taken down, whatever. I'm okay with that. If somebody talks about somebody is racist or, you know, homophobic or whatever on social media, yes, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that stuff. But stating a thought of yours and how you feel and your opinion on a matter, no matter how dumb it is, you know, it's still I've seen people with some of their most ridiculous opinions on something, and they're so dug in, they're not going to change. Like, what am I going to do? Lock them in a closet for it? I mean, it's their opinion, and that's it. Did your best to change it? You couldn't. So be it. We all have them. And for a social media company or the government or anybody to be fact-checking an opinion, which doesn't even make sense if you think about it, and labeling what we say, what we think as misinformation. You know what? If it's something that is truly just, you know, my opinion was so out of whack, it's just stupid, not dangerous, stupid. Like, if maybe they put up a little blurb there saying, these are the facts of this issue. Boom. Okay, cool. But just to tag it and say you can't have an opinion, I mean, it literally reminds me of like watching a movie where, you know, they're dragging someone out of the room where in North Korea and the, you know, military sitting there and they're all sitting there, you know, like it's, you know, because he said something, you know, bad against the dictator, against Kim Jong. That's not America. I'm sorry, it's really not. Our country was, you know, some of the greatest things in our country happened due to debate. And I've said this 100 times, but when you're writing policy, you know, when our elected leaders are writing policy for the future, anything that you see, you know, right now, you know, Democrats have the majority. So anything you see them just push through with no bipartisan support, just like anything you saw in 2016 through 18 when the Republicans had it all and were totally in power, anything they jammed through the same way is gone now, and will be gone from the Democrats. You know, the Republicans will take it and get rid of it in November, December, whatever, whenever they get to it. My point is, bipartisan legislation is built to last, not partisan. But where was I now? Hold on. Kind of just wrote this all down right before we started because I heard something that kind of put me on this tangent, and I'm like, man, I heard something on the radio about misinformation again and this and that, and I'm just like, I'm so sick of it. It's so annoying. I mean, the things you hear from these news stations, quote unquote news, you know, from these hosts like Joy Reid, and I mean, not literally with Joy Reid. I mean, she's, like I said, everything she says is her opinion. It's an opinion-based show. That's fine. She can have it. But her opinion is really, really racist almost every time. Every time. I mean, she could go as simple as McDonald's isn't going to serve the fish fillet anymore, and white supremacy was the reason, obviously, here. And it was like, what? Wait, why? How? She doesn't explain. But white supremacy is the issue with her. It's the answer and issue to everything. I mean, she went to get a new car last week, and she's like, that car right there, they didn't have it in stock anymore, and she really wanted it because she does, you know, obviously, white supremacists took them. Why would you sell all your cars to white supremacists and not any to me? It's just stupid. It gets to the point where nobody wants to listen to that because you're just pushing a narrative that divides people. And you're just pushing a narrative that isn't true for the sole purpose of getting people angry and getting people to see our differences. It's ridiculous. I mean, like I said, you hear the same freaking thing come out of every host from every, you know, liberal media forum. You from MSNBC or ABC or CBS, and then CNN. I will give some of them credit. They've been asking me some tougher questions, but few and far between. Joe Scarborough even hit him with a monster the other day. I wish I could remember what it was, but I'll get it for next week. But man, he hit the new press secretary with a monster question. So, I mean, you hear misinformation, obviously. You hear threat to our democracy when something happens. And you just turn the station. You can just literally go through, set all those stations up as your favorites, and just, as soon as you hear that, just press it. Then press the next one. Within 5 seconds, you'll hear it. Next one. It's insane. It's obviously, you know, a cooperative effort. And, you know, you hear, the best was, worse. This one right here is worse than Watergate. This one is worse than Watergate. And it was the one guy on MSNBC literally said that about 7 different things while Donald Trump was in office. 7 different things. This one right here is worse than Watergate. I mean, even his colleagues were laughing at him. They were just like, oh my God, here we go. They'd say something. They'd say, Donald Trump went to, sign this bill into law today. He's like, this one is worse than Watergate. They're like, no, it wasn't anything bad. It's just, he just kind of signed a bill. Still, worse than Watergate. And it's, again, like Elon Musk is worried about, you know, the bots on Twitter that do things such as, you know, fact check and stuff like that, or, you know, or just completely cut off conversations. You know, they can shadow block people, things like that. And I don't think anybody's opinion, unless it's a dangerous opinion, or unless there is a factual answer for what they're talking about, should be blocked at all, or should be tagged or flagged or whatever. Because in this country, we were taught at the youngest age that we are a country of, you know, diversity. We are a country of many, many nationalities and backgrounds. And we all are allowed to have our own opinions. We're allowed to go after whatever we want in life, in whatever our American dream is. We're allowed to be Republican. We're allowed to be Democrat. We're allowed to be independent. We're allowed to be, I hate politics. You know, we're allowed to be like, don't talk to me about that. We're allowed to be Catholic. We're allowed to be Lutheran. We're allowed to be atheist. We're allowed to be whatever. I mean, yes, the country had a you know, Judeo-Christian founding, you know, when we were founded on that, and that's where many of the morals and values come from, but most of the religions have the same type of morals and values, even if it's a different, slightly different type of historical, references and history, overall history of how, God came about, or Jesus came about, or, if you're Muslim or Jewish, he's a prophet. Whatever. I don't even need to talk about that. The point is, we are allowed to be whatever we want. There's a little kid, you want to be a fire truck or something. Then you want to be a baseball player. Then you realize 1 in every 5 million people get to be a baseball player. And then you decide, finally, you go to college for something if you want, go to trade school, whatever, you go to college, you get a degree that you're not going to use. Then you go decide, now I want to do this. And you finally, it says most people don't find their career until the age of 35 to 40, which is crazy, but it's true. I can see that. But we're all able to do what we want and be what we want, say what we want, as long as it's not hateful, hate speech, or dangerous, like factually completely wrong, that type of dangerous. You can't just say it's dangerous. It's a dangerous opinion. You don't think masks work? That's a dangerous opinion. No, it's not. It's not a dangerous. It's his opinion. He's not going to rip anybody's off. I promise. And if he does, then he's probably going to get arrested. It's like I said this before. I said the funniest part of this whole thing, Joe Rogan stated this. He said 8 to 10 months ago, when they were banging every COVID opinion with misinformation, disinformation, bam, that one, bam, 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 and all this other stuff. There is, if you look out there now, there's a lot of things that were said that were considered or tagged, or flagged, and labeled disinformation that are now the overwhelming opinion, or even now a fact. So how can something do that? It can't. So that means there was a narrative and a reason for labeling that disinformation, because it wasn't. It wasn't. If that thing became the overwhelming opinion, if that became actually even a fact, then at that 8 to 10 months ago, it wasn't completely just wrong. It wasn't disinformation then. If we set up that office of misinformation, office of, I don't know, dangerous, stupid things, or whatever they're calling it, where's the line drawn? There's just no way it's going to work in a democratic republic such as ours, in a capitalist society. It's not going to work because you give people the ability to seek out misinformation with this or that. These people have thoughts and opinions of their own. They have people and a party or whatever that they don't like. They have an agenda as well. So suddenly they're like, I hate what's going on. Like, say the crazy Roe versus Wade thing. There's strong feelings on both sides, right? So what if they go, they got this huge, strong feeling towards the left, and they just start tagging up people for that, going after people for saying something that isn't misinformation, but because they have such strong ties to or relationships to the issue at hand. I just don't see it work. It can't work. Not in America. And not in our country. I mean, if we want to change to a crazy socialist nation, then maybe we can figure out how to put that in. I mean, if you heard the crazy leader to the north of us, I mean, it's just insane. What a difference a Constitution and Bill of Rights and our freedoms make in how we're allowed to be as a society. Our government was set up to keep us from tyrannical action, from a big government swarming over us, saying, I got you, I'm going to help you. I mean, help is one thing to a degree, but I have to talk about this because I believe there's a program before me. I was listening to it here, station, and I believe it's a national program. It's put in here into the station, fed in. But the person was saying how, Republicans and in Kentucky, I believe it was, you know, they're the overwhelming majority of the state government. And they've really pushed a capitalist society and a government that's small. And now it's a real shortage on social programs and social welfare programs. And I kind of was just sitting here with my jaw dropped. I mean, that's what makes capitalism thrive. That's what makes people thrive. When you have a system that can help you and will help you if you fall down or if you are down or whatever, but is going to push you off on your own. I'm going to hold you while you swim, but eventually I'm going to let you go and you're going to swim on your own. And you're going to be like a big smile on your face, like a kid does when he realizes he's swimming on his own. Yeah, it's scary, but it's awesome, right? So that's what a system like ours should be doing. But as you can see, that's not what is the aim right now. The aim seems to be for more and more social welfare programs. And it was amazing the way I heard it stated today, you know, a few times in the argument for it. It was kind of, I just really couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I'm going to go on after this and you know, throw out some opinions that are completely 180 from this. But ultimately, again, that's that person's opinion. This is my opinion. And the people listening can go either way or another way, whatever. And that's great. So, all right, so let's kind of move forward. I was going through Facebook, actually it's Twitter the other day. And I'm new to it, kind of. Started a couple months ago. It's kind of cool, but I don't like the limit to words. Anybody who knows me knows I like to put a lot of words. But anyways, yeah, find me on there. It's right on Red 13, right on Red 13, I believe, which is the name of my podcast, and that's on YouTube. So go find my channel also, Right on Red Podcast. Got a new one I just put out. So I was going through there, and someone stated that the right was, you know, insidiously racist for not going out of their way to cover, you know, Pride Week and some other things that were being celebrated now or coming up. So it got me thinking, and it got me really thinking. And I'm like, I said, so I had a quick thought about, like, hold on, I got to look at this. So I pull up, you know, the thoughts of Marxism and then the, you know, the steps, the way they do things. And I'm like, nah, that makes perfect sense. And I start thinking a little more, and it just kind of straight from the Marxist playbook, the way the left does this. Okay, so the right is gaining more and more, you know, black and brown and women and you know, gay or whatever people into the right is political candidates. If you look at all the people running this coming election, they are extremely diverse, and not by choosing we need you for this, or it was just happened that there it is. It was the last election too, and you can't be racist if people like that are coming in and being accepted, no problem. I mean, it's not even an issue. So what is the difference is when anybody, they're, you know, in a minority category, demographic, in the right, it's like, it just doesn't matter. We don't need to celebrate our differences. And that's a huge thing. It's like, you can be proud of what you are. Nobody said you can't. You can celebrate your history. You know, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. My point is, we don't push, the right doesn't push people to, oh, hey, you need to go wave this flag, and you need to do this, and then you need to have go to a parade. You need to do this, to show that you're so happy to be, gay or whatever. It doesn't matter. You come in and you're gay, it's like, okay, who cares? We're just, let's get down to work. Let's get to business. It's, are you a decent human being? Sweet. Get to know you. Hopefully you're a good guy. It just doesn't matter what color your skin is. Whereas with the left, it's like completely, that's the only thing that matters, basically. To start out, it's like, we need to hire some people, but we need to get this color or this sexual preference. And it's like, we're going to make a new holiday for this group of people, and they're going to go celebrate it like crazy. And when you do stuff like that, when you start celebrating our differences, you're quietly and unknowingly creating an environment of division and even hate. When people are separated by a characteristic that has no bearing on, your qualifications or your overall character, it's just your skin color. It's just your sexual preference. It doesn't make you a decent human being. It doesn't make you a bad human being. But when you're consistently told something over and over that this is your defining characteristic, it ends up being your defining characteristic. And that's sad. And it's literally intentional. 100% intentional. It's like, listen, you're different. You're in a group that has a different skin color, and you are marginalized, and you're a victim, and those people then of course separate into the evil group, the group that everyone's against. And it's just more and more, if you look, more and more groups are being formed. And then the left writes policy for an individual group. I mean, it got real bad for a minute, and luckily Supreme Court stopped in and was like, hey, you can't exclude people. That's literally the definition of racial discrimination, when you exclude people of a certain race or color, or reward or advance people of a certain race or color. And it's, when you start writing policy for each individual group, marginalized group, or whatever they're calling, I mean, it's not going to help anybody. First of all, the policies aren't meant to help them. Second of all, when you write policies that benefit a large percentage or a certain multiple economic classes or something like that, it's going to affect positively everybody, regardless of your race. To write, policy or law or, legislation based on skin color or who you're attracted to, or whatever, it's absolutely insane. And I'm not saying that there isn't some disgustingly ignorant people in the, super alt-right, the far right, whatever they call them, and they claim that we're Republicans, but they're not. They may want to vote that way, but everybody they vote for can't stand them and wish they would, get out of here. We know that about, the extreme right. They're crazy, just like the extreme left is. But you Democrats should start to realize that they are crazy, the extreme left. Just as crazy. I mean, didn't someone just ride to Justice Kavanaugh's house? But anyways, it's to be pushed and pushed and to celebrate our differences and to be consistently put into a group based on your skin color or whatever, or anything like I stated, is, in my opinion, super racist. Like, that right there is racist, and you, in fact, are marginalizing these groups by doing such. Like, God forbid that, someone walks in that's not white or gay or whatever, and you just treat them as just another person. I mean, God forbid. And then if you gets to the point where, you get the progressives drilling it into people's heads that if the right, the conservatives, if they don't, separate and recognize these differences, if they don't recognize you for your skin color, they're racist. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, it got so bad that people were writing on Facebook and other places, a year ago, if you're colorblind, like Martin Luther King asked people to be that was his overall goal, America to be colorblind. If you don't see race and you're quote unquote colorblind, you're actually racist. I mean, people were saying that left and right, and I'm like, I would have to comment. I'd be like, this just doesn't even make sense. If you don't see race and you don't treat people differently because of their race, and so race doesn't matter, so you don't see race, so race doesn't even matter, how can you be racist if race doesn't exist? The root word of racist is race. So, I mean, if that doesn't exist to you, then you can't be racist. It doesn't even make sense. But it's something that, it's the progressives mainly. I'm not talking about the centrist leftists. I'm talking about, the progressive group. They are dead set on, interview them or get a conversation, pull them up on YouTube. Any one of them, like in the squad or, like I said, Joy Reid in the media, and start a conversation with them. And as soon as it goes awry for them a little bit, as soon as you hit them with a couple facts that they have no answer for, they're going to call you racist. I guarantee it. 100%. That's their backup plan, because in the last, over the last 6-7 years, when that did happen, people were like, oh, okay, I'm done talking. It was, and, I understand, it was worse to be called a racist than a murderer. It was worse to be called a racist than a rapist. And, they had secret meetings in some of these cities of conservatives. Conservatives' moms, they had that big, secret meeting in New York City where they had to, so their kids didn't get treated bad in school. They would go on like Wednesdays and Friday nights, this, old church, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And it's like, and they said, well, we didn't want to be called racist. But again, they were truly just saying, hey, there needs to be no racial discrimination. And by anybody, for and against any race. I think that literally is exactly what Dr. King wanted. Now, you don't have to agree with me on this. Like I said, opinions are opinions. But when it all made sense to me, when I was thinking about this the other day, it just kind of all made sense to that. And I never really put it that way. I mean, I always saw that, racism of low expectations type of thing existed on the left, for sure. And victimization and all that. But I never really thought about, how they, push and divide into quote-unquote marginalized groups, and then basically say, well, don't worry about it because we got you. Just vote for us. We got you. We'll help you out. We are here for you. We're going to help you. We're going to help you. Well, I mean, a year and a half, 2 years ago, you didn't need them to help you, and it's like, why now? It's absurd. And it's like, when they, for example, when they write a policy to help have, more business ventures and more easier to have a business venture, to bring more outside businesses into a certain area that's, in an area that's riddled by poverty. They'll say, we wrote this, law, we wrote this bill to provide the black community with this. And it's like, well, wait a minute though. But no, you didn't need, there's a lot of an overwhelming amount of black individuals that don't need your help at all. They don't need your help. What you did is you should say you wrote a policy to help all the individuals that are living in this poverty-riddled area. And we're here to fix, this. It's, it's not just, I thought the most racist thing in the world was when, all that was going on with the police and, the left is saying, we're going to write these laws to basically help criminals under the guise of racial justice. So you're going to help black Americans by writing laws that make it easier for criminals to commit crime. Well, that's a real big assumption there. And it's an untrue assumption there. It's, obviously we know now. Most people with common sense knew then. But apparently a lot of people didn't. We know now that all those laws did and all those policies did was crush those communities. We had 17 or 18 cities have record murders last year. And this year it's on pace to do the same thing because nothing's been adjusted or, changed back. We're still, going through these stupid laws like the bail reform. And I hate when people call bail reform because bail did need reforming. Yes, we all knew that. But, it was bail abolishment, basically. When you're out to shoot at police officers with an illegal gun, when you've been caught 3 times with illegal guns and stolen cars over the last 3 months and you're still out there, something's wrong with that system. And to say that was for racial justice or racial equity is just plain awful. Because it wasn't. It was against anybody in those areas. It hurt the law-abiding citizens in those areas. 100%. It was real easy for, these liberals who are living in these rich areas and, you drive in, you drive in to the city for the protests, your 3-town separation from inner city, and you drive in your Mercedes, you park it so nothing happens to it somewhere hidden, and you walk over and you're protesting with a sign that says defund the police. But the truth is when they polled people in the inner city, law-abiding citizens in inner cities, overwhelmingly they said, no, we need more police. I don't think you understand what's going on. And yet, the whole idea comes from, these white economic, these professors and, in these schools and that are writing all the narratives and things like that on the left. And the whole idea came from, this white group of people who live in areas where you really don't need the police in these upper class rich areas, such as if you're from Rochester, like a Pittsford or Victor or Webster. And it's real easy to yell, defund police, and we don't need the police and this and that in those areas when you're from those areas. Real easy. It's a product of not needing police, and it's a product of a low crime environment where you're from. Well, guess what? It's not so low crime where people in the city are from. And again, so they polled in New York City. They polled. There was 2 areas. One was Harlem, and the other one was I can't remember what it was. Like very uppity area somewhere down in on the borough. But they polled 20 people each, and they did 3 times, so 60 total. But anyways, when they polled in the richer area, and this was almost 2 years ago now, so it's an older poll, about do you want to see police abolished or defunded? 19 out of 20 said yes in that area. Now, when they went to Harlem and spoke with mainly black and Latino people and asked them, they overwhelmingly, 18 out of 20 said absolutely not. Then they did it again, and the next time 20 out of 20 said, no, we need police. Absolutely not. We need it in this area more than anything. I mean, the one guy, I guess the one guy pointed over to the area where there's these corner stores, and he said there's 8 people out there. 4 of them are a lookout, and 4 of them are selling, you know, all these drugs, these kids, and they're gang members. Because we need more police to take down this stuff so other businesses and other people will want to invest and come into our areas. And it makes total sense. I remember last week when, you know, Marcus Williams, who, remember, go to his website, marcusforrochester.com. Donate if you can. Support him and vote Roe v. November. But anyways, he stated about one of our local politicians, Rachel Barnhart. And I had responded on Twitter from her to one of hers, where she wrote, I mean, she's another one like a Joy Reid who loves to just, boom, hit race right off the bat. It's always race. It's never anything else. It's always race is the issue. And she said, you know, Wegmans is basically racist for not opening a store in the, you know, north side of the city where, you know, between Clinton and I think she said Norton, Clinton, Upper Falls, and Goodman or Hudson, whatever. And I responded right away. I said, you know, Rachel, Wegmans is in the business to, you know, make money and stay safe, and they don't need, when you look at that area, that's an 11-block area where all the violent crime in our city is committed, basically. Basically, an overwhelming majority of it, like 89%, and then there's another 9% on the other side of the bridge. But the point is, why would any business, you know, you can call out Wegmans all you want, but why would any business really move in and invest in an area such as that where they are going to be robbed, or, and it has nothing to do with race. These are facts. I mean, like, there's a criminal, you know, group there, and it's just, you know, with the violence, it's the same few hundred people in a city of 200,000 people. And the cops know who it is mainly, but we can't do anything really. And I said, Rachel, you know, that's real, you know, very woke statement of you, but the reality is Wegmans is not going to come into an area where their store is going to be vandalized or robbed, or there's going to be shootings in it or other violent crime, because statistically and just easily seen is exactly that's what's happening in such areas. It has nothing to do with the color of the people, and it's everything to do with being a wise investment, and a wise is a store going to make money. Their insurance would be sky high there, even more so because of such an area. That's not racist that they're charging more for insurance. It's just the facts. You look at the numbers. It's, like I said, it's real easy to make a statement about saying that, but it's not. And until people realize that it's not skin color, we're not going to come up with any real solutions to the issues that are going on down here. So, switch gears for a minute. So a couple days ago, there was an assassination attempt on a Supreme Court justice. I don't know if you guys heard, because there hasn't been a lot of people really, you know, covering it or anything. I mean, it was only a guy who admitted to taking, you know, coming across state lines and getting dropped off at Kavanaugh's house to, quote unquote, murder him. And he brought a weapon, firearm. Luckily, he noticed 2 armed marshals at his house, because, you know, they were there to guard his house because they've been protesting at it for weeks now. And so he walked down the street and called the police and stated, you know, he needed them to get there immediately. He was about to do something stupid. He said a mental, you know, he needed help, basically. Get down here, because came here to kill Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and I don't, you know, you need to get me off the streets right now. And they did. But I mean, it's when somebody admits they were there to kill somebody and came a long way to do it, it's clearly an assassination attempt. DOJ thinks so because they you know, arrested him and charged him with attempted murder. So, therefore it is. Yet, on CNN, MSNBC, this was barely touched. And you had last night and the night before on, X's name. Let me draw on a blank here. Oh, man, that's all right. One of the talk show hosts, you know who I'm talking about, the one who has said a lot of controversial things lately, and the left is really mad at him. Anyways, he stated, I'll come up with it. He stated that last night or the night before that, if this was a liberal justice, we'd be all over this. Like flies on poop. You know, we would be going crazy after it. And it's the truth. And it's sad because it is the truth. But the Supreme Court is you know, it's not supposed to be a political thing. I mean, obviously, people have their own thoughts, and it's always going to be such. I mean, for years and years, it was a very liberal court. Now it's swung back the other way. But the point is there was no real coverage about it. And then there was even excuses being made by some of the hosts on these stations, saying, well, you know, it's, I mean, and you had, I mean, I wonder if they're going to form a committee to go look into Chuck Schumer, because, I mean, he clearly, a year ago, threatened Justice Kavanaugh, along with a couple others, but clearly threatened him. I mean, he literally threatened him. He had to walk it back, even. I mean, so is it his fault that this person showed up? I mean, no, that's stupid. It's obviously not his fault. And we know that. But, you know, it was one of the hosts on Fox News stated, he said, we've covered, and he listed all these events. You know, in each event, there was a completely different narrative. You know, different race, different victims, different weapon used, different, but it was all the same tragedy. Lives were lost because of hate and evil, right? So it was all the same outcome and the same reason, but it was all a different narrative. And it was crazy he showed that, you know, in Fox's defense, they covered every one of those. Every one of them got ample coverage. And then he showed that these other stations, MSNBC, CNN, and I believe the other one what he showed was CBS, didn't even touch on a bunch of them. They called the one in Wisconsin a red car, or a red SUV that ran over people. Never even stated, even though it's the exact same, literally the exact same thing, exact same narrative as Buffalo. You had an evil individual who was mentally ill, who had written, you know, a long, you know, manifesto of hate towards another race, hated people because of their skin color. So he went and he used a weapon to kill children and elderly people of a different race solely because of their skin color and because he's an evil person, racist person. That happened. The same thing happened in Buffalo. Like, I mean, you'd think they both get, I mean, President Biden didn't even address the Wisconsin one, didn't fly there, didn't talk to the families that lost children or grandparents, because the narrative wasn't right. And it's sad. And I'm not saying that the left is the only one who does that. If it doesn't fit the right's narrative, there's a lot of politicians on the right that will, you know, ignore it or whatever. But when people's lives are lost, you got to put coverage on there, and you got to, you know, recognize it, no matter who it is. It doesn't matter. Evil's evil. Evil lives in every race and every sub-demographic that, you know, the politics make up or exists, whatever. There's evil that lives in there. Few and far between, but there is, trust me. I mean, it doesn't, there's no walls to keep the evil out from each individual group. Whether you're, you know, trans, whether you're, you know, straight, whether you're gay, whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Asian, Latino, there is evil in each one. We saw that with the Latino man who murdered all these poor kids. I mean, it's just absolutely disgustingly. I mean, when I saw his picture, I could see the evil in his eyes. It was just horrible how anybody could do such a thing to anybody. And those are kids. I mean, and then to shoot somebody because their skin color is different? I mean, this guy in Buffalo, what a clown. I mean, he's walking around filming this and apologizes to a white guy over the counter. Sorry. Oh, he's okay because his skin's white? Like, you just shot old ladies outside that were, you know, getting ready to go home. You shot innocent people. Because their skin was darker? Like, to have that thought process is just insane. And I believe, you know, there's the left really went after this one to blame the right for all this, but I believe that there's guilt all over, you know, in politics. There's guilt all over. First of all, and I said it starts with dividing us into all these different groups and pushing it so hard. We keep pushing and pushing with this, you know, and pulling us farther apart from each other. I mean, it's like I said, I dare someone, seriously, to watch Joy Reid's show on any given night. Watch the whole thing. You will see that every single topic she speaks about, she adds a racial, you know, narrative to it. It's disgusting to me. I mean, everything. It's like, she'll start talking about that, and she says, and of course, white supremacy. And I'm just like, wow, how did that even relate to it? It's insane. I mean, she's obviously got issues. I mean, it's sad to watch. It really is. So, to go back to the assassination attempt. Again, like I said, it wasn't covered because it really didn't, I mean, it obviously didn't fit a narrative. But the fact of the matter is what, yes, the DOJ arrested this guy. But you know, I mean, it is illegal to be protesting outside of a justice's house like that. I mean, that leaked the decision. It's horrible, first of all. Like, I mean, no matter what side of the argument you're on, it was illegal to leak that. It was horrible to do that. And now it's very dangerous being a 5-4 split. It's very dangerous and fluid situation for these justices right now. Because, you know, I mean, I don't even like to say it, but if something were to happen to Kavanaugh or Gorsuch or whatever, or Thomas or whatever, it would immediately allow the sitting president to name a new justice. And that would change it to 5-4. And that's scary because there are, like I said, there's evil all over. There's a lot of psychopaths out there. Like the one that showed up at his house. That was his thought process. All right, I'm going to kill him and then I'm good to go. We're good to go. 5-4 us. So I said, you know, if this is the way they're going to go with the decision, if that's the way they want to go, then Robert should get on board and make it 6-3 because it's a safer situation. Less likely they're going to do something crazy if that's the case. But, I mean, 18 U.S. Code 1507, picketing and parading, under this, obstruction of justice means interfering, impeding, or attempting to influence elected officials or court officials, witnesses, jurors, or judges in the course of discharging their duties. That right there makes it illegal to, I mean, you can go to the Supreme Court and protest all you want. You can't go to try to influence or intimidate a Supreme Court judge at his house. You can't do that. And the DOJ should put a stop to this. Because it doesn't matter what side you're on. You don't want things to go there like this. Nobody wants to see someone assassinated or beat up or killed. And it's stupid to allow something like this to happen when it can be ended real quick. Like, no, you can't do it here. You're not allowed to do this it's just someone to a court official. And he's a judge. You can't do that. Bottom line. Wow, time went by fast today. Wow. All right. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I had like 4 other topics to talk about today and didn't get to any of them, but that's all right. We'll get to it next week. Again, check out my podcast, Right on Red Podcast, on YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel. I also have a lot of short videos on there too. When I feel like talking about something, throw the camera on and talk about something. And join me next week here. And hope everyone has an awesome week. And again, get all the information. Make sure you talk to people, debate with people, make sure the truth is out there. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.